Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
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 Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Adi Lila. English. Aishvarya Janete Saba Jagata Mishrita Aishvarya Sila Prema Nahi Mora Prita. One word at a time, and it makes it easier. This is, Adi Lila, chapter 3, text 16.
Chapter 3, text 16.
16.
60. 60 Maharaj? 1360?
60, 1, 3, yeah. Adi Lila, chapter 3, text 60. Everybody got it?
Yes, Maharaj.
These phones are great, aren't they?
Sorry, what was that?
These phones are great, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like a nuclear bomb, you can use it either ways.
Yeah. Okay. Have you got it, Mataji?
360.
Adi Lila, Chaitanya Chaitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 3, text 16.
Javira Kalma Shatamo. This?
Eh?
Javira Kalma Shatamo. Nasha Karibara. Anga Upama. Nama Nama Astadhare.
That's what I have.
1 through 60.
First,
1.
Adi Lila, chapter 3, 60.
No, 1, 6.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
1 6. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Maharaj. Aishwarya
Yeah, that's it.
Aishwarya Sitila Prema Nahi Mora Prita.
Yeah. Aishvarya Janeti Sabha Jagat Mishrita Aishvarya Stitila Aishvarya Stitila Prema Nahi Mora Prita. So, can we recite it together? Aishvarya Janeti Sabha Jagat Mishrita
Aishwarya Sitila Prema Nahi Mora Prita.
Aishvarya Janite, with knowledge of the opulence. Sabha, all. Jagat, the world. Mishrita, mixed. Aishvarya, Stila Prema, Sitila Prema, to love enfeebled by opulence.
To love enfeebled by opulence.
I've never come across that word before. Or enfeebled. Nahi, there is not. Mora, my. Prita, attraction. Translation. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration, but devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. In response, please. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration, but devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After his appearance, Lord Krishna thought that he had not distributed transcendental personal dealings with his devotees in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. One may understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Vedic literature and thus become a devotee of the Lord and worship Him within the regulative principles described in the scriptures. But one will not know in this way how Krishna is served by the residents of Braj Bhumi. One cannot understand the dealings of the Lord in Vrindavan simply by executing the ritualistic regulative principles mentioned in the scriptures. By following scriptural injunction, one may enhance his appreciation for the glories of the Lord, but there is no chance for one to enter personal dealings with Him. Giving too much attention to understanding the exalted glories of the Lord reduces the chance of one entering personal loving affairs with the Lord. To teach the principles of such loving dealings, the Lord decided to appear as Lord Chaitanya. Om Gantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastacharya Shatarine. Gaur Govind Maharaj, when he used to give this lesson, he called it the embankment of separation. And he used to talk about, Aishvarya and more intimate service of the Vrajvasis, and he said it's stunted. It's describing the scriptures as stunted. So that's a better explanation, because stunted means something grows but it doesn't grow to its full capacity. So our real capacity is to, engage in devotional service to the Lord in one of the 5 transcendental rasas, because that's what Prabhupada says in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. When we become a devotee, we should know that we have one of the 5 relationships with the Lord. This is what it says in the introduction. And so when we go to the point of, just understanding the Lord's glories, it's actually we're not having a chance to grow to our real maturity, so it's called stunted. And it has the effect on the Supreme Lord that, we don't want, a world where you're just a king and everybody's doing what you tell them to do. It can be pretty boring, can't it? You know what I mean? It probably looks like...
Many people want it, Maharaj.
Eh?
Many people want it, actually, right?
Well, they'll want it to a point, but after some time, like...
Well, life after life, they do
Yeah.
it.
I mean, even the great, dictators and leaders, they all had a girlfriend or a wife. They had somebody to sort of, in the background, chastise them. Because the wife don't care whether he's a king or, she don't care who he is. He's a husband, and if he starts acting awkward, I'm going to tell him. So, it's like refreshing to get that. So, even Krishna, he feels that he wants to reciprocate with people as a friend, or as a, in a paternal relationship. Dasya Rasa is also there, and in an intimate Madhurya Rasa relationship. And this is where we get all our relationships from those original. And so, we're trying to actually act like they do in the spiritual world in these relationships. And then we come to the point of spiritual realization, and we're stunted to acting just like this all the time. It's not going to work, is it? But this is Vaikuntha. In Vaikuntha, everybody's appreciating the glory of the Lord. They've got a body like the Lord, they've got a wife, but they, somehow or other they're satisfied in that condition. But this is not the same condition as Rajbhumi. And as Lord Chaitanya is saying, that he says, for a long time I've not bestowed this pure devotional service in the mood of the Rajvasis. And so that was one of the reasons for his appearance. And this is called Prema. He came to teach Prema, and he achieved that by the propagation of Nam Sankirtan. And that's what we were talking about last week. We were talking about how Lord Chaitanya personally distributed pure love of God. And predominantly it was in the Sankirtan, not just Kirtan, but the Sankirtan took place in South India. We spoke a little bit about his preaching, how Grihasthas should stay in their position and prosecute devotional service and do their duty. Not that they can all of a sudden leave that and, engage in full devotional service. It's actually premature, and it's not appreciated by Krishna. And then we talk about Ramananda Roy, that if we want to actually practice devotional service, then we have to come to the point of hearing from a bona fide devotee, Vaishnava, or spiritual master. And if we're capable of doing that with the proper attention and respect, then we'll actually make progress. Why? Because Haritoshanam. Because that's what pleases Krishna. We spoke about how we're all human beings, and we get our propensities from Krishna. Some of them not, but in general, we get the anarthas, which are the backside of Krishna. But the face of Krishna, all these qualities are coming. And one of the qualities is that appreciation. Krishna likes to be appreciated, is that right? Otherwise he's not a person. And when somebody actually is hearing about Krishna, he's interested. Who's wanting to hear about me? And so that's the first stage in satisfying. He says that satisfies him more than any yogi or any tapasvi or any mystic performer of different transcendental processes. And so we're safe. We just have to keep hearing. And sooner or later, ding, the penny will drop. Well, we have that experience, you keep hearing the same thing, or what appears to be the same thing. And then one day we hear the same thing, we think, wow, that's what I should do. So that's what happens if we go through these hurdles, and then we become a little more serious. And that's Krishna's mercy. Krishna, when he sees that we're serious about wanting to make progress and trying to understand how, at some point he'll help us. And so the process, we'll talk about this tomorrow, is surrender. When we properly surrender, then we get Krishna's mercy. We can't do it on our own. And so we're going to, now we spoke about the external reason for the Lord's appearance to some degree, and then I said that we'd try and speak about the confidential reason for his appearance. And so I don't have the verses here, I just think it's 1
1 through 14.
1 6 1 6
1 6
Hey,
1 6
1 Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 6. The highest mellow of bhakti. That's right, that's in. Sixth, the three internal reasons for Lord Chaitanya's advent. Sri Radhaya Pranaya Mahimya Kirisho Anayeva Svadyo Inadbhuta Madhurima Kirisho Va Mariha Sokyam Chasyamad Anubhavata Kirisham Veti Lobat Tad Bhavya Samajani Sachigarva Sindhu Harinduhu. Translation. Desiring to understand the glory of Sri Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appeared from the womb of Sachi Devi as the moon appeared from the ocean. And this is commented on later on, and it says that you'll find this verse in this particular Shastra, and that's all it says. So what can I speak about it? But we do having our disciplic succession. One devotee who emphasised this reason for the Lord's internal or confidential appearance. And when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, as I said the other day, he tried to go to Jagannathpur, he tried to go to Vrindavan, but Nityananda diverted him to Advaita Acharya's house. And then when he'd spent some time there, then he went towards Jagannath Puri, and he stopped in one place called Remuna. Remuna is a very famous place because Lord Chaitanya immediately was feeling, ecstasy when he went there, because he could remember the pastimes of one great devotee, Madhavendra Puri. And he's the first one in our disciplic succession to actually give this mood of service in separation and in the mood of Madhurya Ras. Before that, these things were not there. And so this completes the process of devotional service. And this is what Lord Chaitanya came to deliver, this complete process of devotional service. And he started telling the story of Madhavendra Puri to his associates. How Madhavendra Puri, he went to Vrindavan. He was a sannyasi, completely renounced. And so one day he circumambulated to Govardhan Hill, then sat down in one place and started meditating. And then when he opened his eyes, he saw, there was a little cowherd boy coming towards him. And he said, this cowboy say, who are you and what are you doing here? Who are you meditating on? And Madhavendra Puri, he just asked him the question. He says, where did you come from? And what are you doing here, so to speak? Because he was amazed by the beauty of this little boy, and how, cute is cute, the word. He was just like really attracted. And then this little boy said, I come from a nearby village, and some local ladies saw you meditating, and they told me. He says, no, so they told me, and so I came and brought you this milk. And Madhavendra Puri said, well, I'm fasting. He says, nobody fasts in our village. He says, either they come and they ask for something, and the people give, and if they don't ask, then I come and give it to them. And so he said, anyway, drink this milk, and I'll come back for the pot later. And so Madhavendra Puri drank the milk, and he was waiting and waiting and waiting, but he never came back. And so he realised that, at least not today. So then he took rest, and that night he had a dream. And in that dream, he heard this voice of one deity called Gopal. And he was saying, please take me out of this situation. I've been hidden in the forest in this particular, and he told him the place, and it's very cold and wet, and in the daytime it's so hot. I'm suffering so much. Go and tell the villagers to come and, excavate. And so when Madhavendra Puri awoke, it was such a vivid dream that he realised this must be true. So he went to the village, and all the villagers, they got their instruments, and they cleared away the forest, and eventually, it was like a jungle actually. And eventually they came to this spot, and they uncovered the earth, and there was a deity of Lord Krishna. And one Pujari, when the Muslims had attacked that area, he ran out of the field and he hid the deity in the ground. And in that dream, the deity said, I want you to build me a temple on a hill, and there were so many different types of worship and offerings of food, and also this allowed me to actually have a comfortable situation. And so Madhavendra Puri did all that. So it took quite some time, and they were regularly worshipping. And then at some point the deity Gopal, he said to Madhavendra Puri that, you have to, I'm still not cool. It's so hot. It's on top of Govardhan Hill, wasn't it? Govardhan, yeah. And he says, so I want you to go to the Jagannath Puri and get some camphor and sandalwood paste. He says, and then when you obtain that, you can bring it back and smear it on my body. This will solve the problem. He was actually testing Madhavendra Puri, because it wasn't just like getting on the TGW, was it? The train, that fast train to Paris. You just get on the train and you're in Paris in an hour, just over an hour. Or in Jagannath Puri in just over a couple of hours maybe. It took him weeks. He had to go through all across the country from Vrindavan. It's probably over 1,000 miles, maybe 1,500 miles. Long way, isn't it? Walking, not on this, on jungle. And anyway, Madhavendra Puri was in ecstasy that he could do this service, even though it was so difficult. And he eventually came to the village of Ramuna, and he went in the temple and saw the deities, and he was thinking, maybe I can learn something from the offerings they make at this temple, and I can learn the art of cooking them and take them back for Gopal. This deity was called Gopinath. And so at that time he was asking the temple, not commander, but what did they call the temple authority then? anyway, you can say temple president. He said, yeah, surely you can. It's actually just come in now with the offering. And this is the most famous offering in the whole of England, the whole of India. The whole of India. It's called Amrita Keli. It's sweet rice and it's so nectarine. And Jagannath and Madhavendra Puri, he was meditating on this. So, I'd just like to taste a little bit of that, just to see, so I can make the same for Gopal. And then, he realised what he'd said, and he left the temple, and he was lamenting that, I'm actually trying to enjoy before the Lord's enjoyed. And so he went away and he started chanting in a empty marketplace. And so that night, the pujari, who was, put the sweet rice out, he had a dream, and it was the Gopinath deity. And it said, when you wake up in the morning, in fact, he said, I want you to immediately go to, I left some sweet rice. I covered you by my Yogamaya potency, so there should have been 12 pots, but you counted 11 pots as 12. But I put one behind the curtain. So I want you to get that pot and take it to the marketplace and give it to Madhavendra Puri. So, the deity understood Madhavendra Puri's mind. And so the pujari did this. And then Madhavendra Puri, he tasted the sweet rice, and then he thought, I better leave. But by morning time, everybody will know what's happened. The story will be all over Ramuna. And, he was a humble Vaishnava. He didn't want glory, so he just left Ramuna and went on his way to Jagannath Puri. We know what happens, don't you? What travels the fastest? The legs or the word?
The word.
The word. So, his actually fame overtook him when he reached Jagannath Puri. By that time he got there, everybody actually was glorifying. And so they invited him to the temple, and the temple, I forget what they call them. He was one, the Bhattacharya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, superintendent. They were the superintendent. And, they gave him as much camphor as he could carry and as much sandalwood to be ground. And they gave him papers so he wouldn't have to pay a toll on the way back. And on the way back, he stopped in Ramuna again. And they had a big festival. And at that time, he took rest and he had another dream. This time it was a Gopal deity in Vrindavan. And the Gopal deity in Vrindavan, he told Madhavendra Puri, he says, you don't have to come all the way back with the camphor and the sandalwood. Just grind it all up and you put it on the body of Gopinath. There's no difference between my body and Gopinath's. He says, that'll be suffice to make me feel comfortable. And when you've used it all up, then you can come back. So, Lord Chaitanya told his story when he was passing through Ramuna to all his companions, and he started dancing in ecstasy. And why? Because Madhavendra Puri had the mood of what he was trying to distribute. He was the first one in our disciplic succession to exhibit Madhurya Ras, and the first one to exhibit service in separation. And so, he has a special place in our disciplic succession. And there's one nice Dayananda Tanuja Kinkaram. That's the one, isn't it? Is it? No, it's not. That's
We did the famous one in front of Jagannath Rath card. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was quoting it. Is that the one you're looking for?
no. Well, I think I know where it is. Just a minute. It's chapter 3. I wrote it down, let's have a look. Here we are, 4197. Try again.
Srimad Bhagavatam?
No, Chaitanya Charitamrita.
First chapter.
Yeah.
Adi.
The best thing to do here is to go there, number 5, and go back. There's so many verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's 270 verses in this chapter.
I found that one, 197.
197. No, that's not it.
Doesn't seem like one.
Oh, it's Madhya Lila.
So chapter 4, Madhya.
What's that? Madhya Lila, no wonder. Oh, this is better, yeah, this is... Hai Dina Dayadra Nath He Mathura Nath Godavala Kshe Vidayam Tvad Aloka Kartram Dayita Brahmanyati Kim Karome Ham. O my Lord, most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved, what shall I do now? So that verse encapsulates those two things. He's feeling intense separation, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when at the time when he left his body, Madhavendra Puri, he had one disciple called Ramachandra, and he wasn't a very intelligent disciple. He didn't understand this ras of separation, and he was criticizing his spiritual master. He said, "Why are you lamenting? This is Maya to lament. We should be actually transcendental." But, he didn't realize that he was being transcendental. It was transcendental separation, what they call it. Sambhoga's meeting and Vipralamba Seva. So that's our particular, we're not maybe on the platform of Madhavendra Puri, but we are trying to serve, and we're actually separated, at least externally. So it's this is the opportunity to really engage in the highest type of devotional service in separation. And what was his mood by Madhavendra Puri? Let's have a look. He gives you the characteristics. He says he was completely renounced. What's that verse? There's one verse. Anukulyana Sankalpa Patikulya Shivarjanam Rakshishotiti Vishvaso Goptripte Sharanambata Apmanikshapa Karpanye Sadpidam. No, is it? Yeah, Sharanagati. That Sharanagati means surrender. So he was exhibiting the, it's from the Parama Vivarta. What's another one? Silent, doesn't speak anything except about Krishna. Called Moni. Uninterested in anything material. Savatra Alakshina. Without companion, because he feared Gramya Kata. He wanted to travel alone because he didn't want to speak any nonsense. And it said, what to back up? This is the mood of a devotee in our movement. He says that previously spoken by Srimati Radharani when Krishna disappeared from the Rasdans. So it's the essence of that the gopis' mood of service to Krishna, what he's actually emphasizing. So therefore, it's not only separation, he's emphasizing the mood of the gopis, which is Madhurya Ras, in that one verse. So that's what I wanted to really speak about. Something else as well I can speak about while I'm here. We spoke about Madhavendra Puri. It was Radharani expressed this when Krishna sent Uddhava. Remember when he sent Uddhava back to actually see the gopis, which is left behind in Vrindavan. And Uddhava went and Srimati Radharani spoke this verse to Uddhava. And it's the most important. So, this actually generates the most important verse in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. From this comes the most important verse. What's that? Chenadapi sahichena tararapi sahishnuna amanina manadina kirtaniya sarahari. Okay. So just going back to the external reason for the Lord's appearance. One thing we didn't talk about, we talked about Harinam Sankirtan, but we didn't talk about Brihatmadanga, did we? Brihatmadanga means that Sankirtan which goes for more than a few hundred yards at the most, but it goes on and on all the way around the world. And that's the book distribution. And so, not long after Lord Chaitanya, it may be actually when Lord Chaitanya was still around, it's uncertain. There was one devotee appeared called Srinivasacharya. And, there's a book called Vaishnav Saints, and it talks about his appearance. And also Narottam Das Thakur. When Lord Chaitanya went to one place, what was that place?
The king was there.
Anyway, he was saying, he was constantly calling out the name of Narottam.
Oh, Padma River.
Padma River. Narottam, where's my father, Narottam? Because actually Narottam Das was an expansion of Nanda Maharaj, right? I think so. I mean, I might have got that wrong. I know that, Lord Chaitanya, Jagannath Mishra.
Oh.
That's why he called him father. Anyway, I may have got it wrong.
No, Lord Chaitanya was with his associates one time. He was calling him, he was not, Narottam did not appear yet. He was with the Panchatattva, he was calling Nara. They did not know. One time, I think similar Nara sound he was making, it's
and the last one was,
Shamananda.
his name was Krishna Suki or something. Suki Krishna.
Sukhi Krishna.
Suki Krishna Das.
It was Tukhi Krishna and then it was Sukhi Krishna.
Yeah. And so he took the name Shamananda. And they were they inaugurated the Brihat Madanga because Janavi, the wife of Lord Nityananda had a long time left, but she was still seen as one of the prominent Vaishnavis, and she had many disciples. And she visited Vrindavan and Rupa and Sanatan, and asked them to the books that they were writing so prolifically, which were Lord Chaitanya asked them to write books. And she said, we don't have any books in Bengal and in Orissa, so can we actually have some transported? So it wasn't like, you know what that is?
Printing press.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. They wrote it, the whole thing. So there were only a few copies of anything, And so the Jiva Goswami, by that time, there's a long story of how Srinivas was looking for Rupa Goswami, he left his body, and then looking for Gadadhar, he left his body. He missed all the associates of Lord Chaitanya, actually. But Jiva Goswami was left. And so Jiva Goswami in Vrindavan, he carried on, he started organising the books are actually nicely bound up, and they actually put in a nice cart, and he asked them to take them to bullock cart to West Bengal. And so he deployed Shamananda, Narottam and Srinivas, and after a great difficulty, can you imagine, they had to go 1,000 miles at least by bullock cart with these big boxes, this big cart full of all these precious books. And on the way, actually almost in Bengal, there was one king called Virambir, and he was actually, he had lots of dacoit associates, and he had a really good, what do you call them, astronomer or astrologer. And this astrologer, he used to predict when there was some rich booty coming through his kingdom, and so he used to deploy his dacoits to rob them. This is the king. And so his astrologer one day was looking in his, looking in his globe or looking at his cards, whatever he used to do, So, wow! He told the king, there's the biggest treasure coming through this kingdom that the world has ever known. And, the king was so enlivened. And so then he told all the dacoits, and all the dacoits were rubbing their hands together. And so they went, and they actually not caught up, but they intercepted the cart, but they kept out a distance so they couldn't be seen. They were actually intelligent. They were waiting for an opportune moment where they could actually take the books without being, spotted. And so they were following the cart for many, many days, and then the cart got to, almost to the place they wanted to be. And so they all relaxed, and they took rest after a long day of travelling with this cart. There was 12 guards, and all the guards, they were actually wiped out. They were snoring their heads off. And then Srinivas and Shamananda and Narottam took rest. And guess what, in the middle of the night the dacoits came. And next morning they woke up, the treasure had gone. Can you imagine how they felt? I know when we went to one place called Ashton-under-Lyme in Manchester, and somebody nicked my books. I had a trolley of books, and these youths came, and I was distributing the books, and all these had gone. I thought, my God, So, but these were the only books, they were heartbroken. And so, but Srinivas, he thought, Krishna must have a reason, or a blade of grass moves without the Supreme. So he was inquiring here, and he went further into the city. And then he heard from one acquaintance he made about the king, about his antics and what and about one pandit who used to regularly recite Bhagavatam to the king and his entourage every night. And they said, you should go and listen. So Srinivasacharya went to listen. And he realised that this pandit is actually not in disciplic succession, he's quoting things which, And so he told me, after a few days, he said, in a polite way, maybe this point is not quite correct, and maybe you're actually missing the point. But this pandit, he was proud, and he said, and the king was overhearing, and he said, okay, if you can actually recite that, you recite tomorrow. And so the king said, yeah, you can do that. Because he was curious, why is he being criticised? So next day they all came, the king and all his entourage, and Srinivas started reciting the Bhagavatam. And they were all in ecstasy, you know what I mean? Thought, wow, we've never heard such a rendition of the Bhagavatam ever before. And so they did this for a few days, and then, Srinivasacharya, he said to the king, I came to this part of the world with a big treasure, and it was stolen. And the king immediately realised, and he burst out in tears. And he said, yeah, I've actually committed a great aparad. He says, it was me, and he took him to the books, and they retrieved them. But, the king was so impressed by Srinivasacharya, I think he accepted him as his guru. But he saw that, the whole of his kingdom became Krishna conscious by his position as being king. The king's called in the English language, Defender of the Faith. 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Cyclic succession coming through the saintly kings. He's there to protect religion. So that was the start of the book distribution. And then, of course, they were taken to Jagannath, to Orissa anyway. Okay, we can stop there. So that's it. We can start Bhagavad Gita on Friday.
What was that, Mara?
Maybe we can do Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita on Friday. Any comments or questions? Anything you need to speak about? I know one devotee, when he says this, he just starts chanting until somebody asks a question.
I have a question.
Come on then.
So, you said in the beginning of the class that Krishna is not pleased with Vaikuntha mood. And then we are...
It's not that he's not pleased, it doesn't satisfy him.
Yes, not satisfied.
We can be pleased with something, but not satisfied,
Yeah, so he's not satisfied, and so we are trying to practice in this mood of awe and reverence. So how is it going to turn into...
Yeah, we practice now in our neophyte stage with awe and reverence. We worship Radha Krishna with awe and reverence. And like Lakshmi Narayan. That's how we worship Lord Krishna.
And so with awe and reverence, and then from this practice is supposed to develop then something spontaneous.
Yeah.
Practice.
From awe and reverence, we purify the heart, and then when we're free from anarthas, then we attain nishtha, we become fixed in devotional service. And when we're fixed, we get a strong taste called ruchi. And then that leads to attachment for the service, and then attachment to Krishna. And then when we become attached to serving Krishna, we get ecstatic symptoms, ecstatic feelings. And then when that becomes more condensed, we get prema. So it's a natural process. But, at some point along the way, in order to develop the mood of the Brajvasis, we've got to be trained under a Brajvasi. Somebody who's a devotee in that mood. And so that's Lord Chaitanya in our case. He came to show us how to practice this. So he's our Braj Bhakta and also Prabhupada. So we don't have to go looking in Vrindavan for a Brajvasi to follow, We're already doing that. So just by following this process, we're actually following the mood of the gopis.
And Prabhupada, where it says that Prabhupada didn't like to show people to notice his ecstatic symptoms. And I think I read that even when a great soul become liberated, and like very free from all sort of, it don't even belong to the rules and regulations anymore. Still, it will show the example.
No, they don't have to, but they do, as an example.
Yes. They are not bound to the rules anymore, but they still do it on account of showing the example.
Yeah.
So
That's what Prabhupada did. He controlled himself. He didn't show his symptoms. Sometimes they appeared, without his control. But probably everybody's heard he was once talking, and then all of a sudden he just became like motionless. I remember I was reading, what was it I was reading? Oh, I was watching those DVDs, which Jadubar, that new set is.
Following Prabhupada.
And there was one part where Brahmananda's talking. Oh no, it wasn't Brahmananda. It was another devotee, and he said Brahmananda was sat at the side of Prabhupada, and Prabhupada, he started exhibiting ecstatic feelings, and and although from Brahmananda, he was shaking like anything, and he just shouted out something, He freaked out, You probably wonder what were happening to him, you know what I mean? That's what happened to that fisherman, isn't it? Who caught Lord Chaitanya in the sea, and his body was about 10 foot long. All his limbs had become disjointed, and his eyes were like, and he caught him in the net, and somebody touched him. He became filled with ecstasy, and he thought he'd gone crackers. He'd gone mad.
He thought he was haunted by a ghost.
Hey?
He thought he was haunted by a ghost.
Haunted by a ghost. Okay, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Srimad Sri Chaitanya Chaitanya Rita Ki.
Jai.
So Prabhupada Ki.
Dayananda Swami Maharaj ki.
Maharaj, I have another question.
Go on.
Is,
If you want to go, you don't
No
have to.
problem.
Is the beginning of the first stages of devotional life are the more difficult to pass?
Yeah, it's a big test to get started, isn't it? It's a big test to get started in devotional service. It's not easy for new people. They have to be really cultivated nicely. I have so many stories of devotees who they became full time, but when they first came, you know, like Shukadev, he used to be my Bhakti leader. He drove from Brighton, which is on the south coast, to London, which is about maybe to Bhaktivedanta about nearly 100 miles, 80 odd miles. And then he came to the manor, he drove around the manor and went back. He didn't go in. It just, you know, it was too much for him. And we had, in Manchester we've got a window with Prabhupada, you know, Prabhupada deity. But at the back of him is a window. So anybody who's passing the window to see Prabhupada's bald head, you know. And many people said they've come, they've seen Prabhupada in the window and then they've turned back. And when I first visited, you know, I went to it was a Manchester University, that's where they had the program. So I travelled from Sheffield to Manchester, about 50 odd miles. And then, I'm waiting to go in, and this devotee, I didn't know he got a flat hat on, trousers and that. He'd been out on book distribution, but I didn't know. And he was shaking his beads and walking up and down. And I thought, it really threw me a little bit. And then Ranshaw came. He was a Prabhupada disciple, he was like, effulgent like anything. But, and I remember when they started chanting the prayers, I didn't know half of them. And, I felt as if I weren't part of the scene. And then they started chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And then I felt comfortable, So it's good to remember all these things that, we tend to think that, or we may forget that when somebody new comes, they actually need really being careful with them, just introducing them very nicely, explaining everything, making them feel, because they want to learn everything like everybody else, straight away. And then they feel more comfortable.
Part of the family, no?
Eh?
Part of the family.
Part of the family, yeah.
But sometimes we cannot how to make it, because sometimes, well, it depends also on the person. If the person wants to learn or...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some people, they won't carry on coming, though.
Because sometimes we want to learn, then after we don't want to learn anymore. Because when we start learning a little bit, we think that's it, I know it.
Yeah, no, that's true for a lot of us. As soon as we've learned, we've got to, be like, okay, leave it up to me. I'm going to make the whole of, New Maya, this area Krishna conscious in 1 week. And I don't need any help. Then after 1 week, I think, might take 2 weeks. And then after a while we realise, we've got a lot to learn. And it's like that ongoing. That's why, the more we learn, the more we realise we don't know. Realise that it's, the ability is not ours. It's coming from Krishna.
I have a question. How much do you think the free will has
How much?
How much do you think the free will is, Krishna gives the free will?
I didn't hear the last part.
When the service started.
How much do I think?
The free will, how much free will?
How much free will?
Oh, you asked me this, didn't you, the other day?
Yes.
How much free will does he give us?
Yes.
Well, we
When
haven't.
you start to experience the devotional service symptoms, because I have some devotional service symptoms.
You have some what?
Symptoms from the past,
Symptoms from the past.
from the bhakti.
From?
The question is asking is when we are starting devotional service, then how much free will do we have then? Because it's like I understand the question is like, because then when we start devotional service, like Krishna start taking care of it. So how much free will left?
Yes.
Well, the free will that we have is that the only thing we've got free will to do is to either serve Krishna, surrender to Krishna, or serve the material energy. That's the only choice we've got. If we start serving the material energy, the modes of nature start controlling us, controlling our mind, controlling our intelligence.
Why Krishna allows it?
But, no, wait a minute. But if we serve Krishna, if we decide to serve Krishna, then Krishna starts giving us the connections, the association, the ability to understand and make progress. So, as soon, we've only got that free choice to serve Krishna or not to serve Krishna. We either come under Krishna's internal energy, which is the spiritual world, or we come under the external energy, which is the material world. The external energy is called Maya, and it's the work is we're being manipulated by the modes of nature in this world, although we seem to think that we are doing things. We have a particular type of mind which is conditioned. It's not us. We have a particular type of intelligence which is conditioned to think in a certain way. It's not us. The body is not us. The propensities in the body are given for that body because we've desired this particular situation. And we're the soul inside who are following the dictates of the materialistic mind, intelligence and bodily needs. We're nothing to do with this body, but we are so closely related we think we're the body. But in the spiritual world, there's actually another energy there. It's also a Shakti of the Lord. It's called the pastime potency, or the internal potency. And that potency is helping us to act in a certain way in a particular relationship with Krishna. It's helping us to forget who Krishna actually is and see him in a different way as a friend. And we relate to him as a friend like that. So we're always under Krishna's potency according to our desire. Whatever we desire to do in the spiritual world to serve Krishna, then Krishna can facilitate it. Whatever we desire to do in the material world, according to our desire, the material energy can facilitate it. But the material energy is also under Krishna, it's one of his energies. Yeah.
So the only thing that we have is desire. I mean,
we can only desire two things. There's only one choice, not desire. We only choose one thing or the other. And then when we make a choice, we come under the material energy and we're put from one species of life to another, birth, death, old age and disease, go on and on and on. If we go into Krishna energy, we have eternal life and eternal pastimes, eternal blissful pastimes, which are also controlled by Krishna's pastime potency. That pastime potency is working in such a way to create a favourite, just like, you go to a party, somebody sets up the whole, buys all the boga, makes all the preparations, makes all the seating arrangements, arranges the different programs that are going to go off, and we go to it, right? So in the spiritual world, there's a potency which is making all those arrangements so that we can engage in Krishna's interactions. It's not just like in one place for a party, but that's the principle, you understand? And as devotees in the spiritual world, we have different services. We might be setting up the party, or we might be in the party. But, because we're actually serving Krishna, we're feeling actually blissful because Because Haritoshanam, he's satisfied by whatever service we can do. And when Krishna's satisfied, we're satisfied. Can you imagine what it's like to be satisfied, fully satisfied? Just try and think what it's like. Somebody offers you, everything the material energy can offer. And you don't want it, You're not interested. That's satisfaction.
And let's say someone gets that whatever someone gets in Krishna consciousness, you have to share it.
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
You get
I
the
mean,
Maha.
if we don't want to share, then we will not be anymore. Yeah, not the Maha.
Somebody could,
Not the chapati.
No, I mean, we take Krishna consciousness and we try to help others to understand it by what we've gained. That's a nice process. That's the best thing to do. But at least we should take it. Whether we give it or not is another thing. But we should take it first. What's the price
What's the price?
of devotional service? Pure devotional service.
What we have to pay or what
Yeah.
we gain? What we have to pay?
You know.
We have to give up.
Eh?
We have to give up our illusion.
It's our faith, our sincere desire to have it. If we really want it, we'll get it. But there's a process of getting to that position. Okay. Shall I probably